All right, so everybody on? Ready to go?
Can you hear me, Ken?
I can hear you just
Steve?
fine. Yep.
I'm not getting the picture, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Steve. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the November 24th meeting of the Northfield Township Board of Trustees at 7:01. And if you could rise and join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of
the
the
United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and next is invocation. Say, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together in civic duty tonight, and just ask that you watch over us and watch over those in Northfield Township, as many are struggling with many consequences of COVID-19, both those that are healthy and are suffering from the virus itself. Amen. All right. Roll call, please. Miss Manley.
Sorry, guys, I had no sound.
You're okay. So, roll call.
Okay, thank you. I did not know that.
Oh, that's okay.
Dignan.
Present.
Zelenock. Sorry,
Present.
guys, I had no sound.
Present.
Fink.
Here,
Nelson.
Present.
Muchow.
Present.
You're going to have to correct me on that.
Moco.
Moko. Okay, gotcha.
That's all right.
All right.
All here.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items in the consent agenda that anyone wishes to have pulled out? If none, can I ask someone to entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda of November 24, 2020 meeting as provided in our packet.
I'll support.
So a motion by Chick and supported by Manley. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Miss Manley, would you call the roll, please?
Chick.
Yes,
Nelson.
Yes.
Zelenock.
Yes.
Dignan.
Yes.
Otto.
Yes.
Moko.
Yes.
7-0.
All right. Next is adoption of the remainder of the agenda. I do have one correction on the agenda, and that is on, let's see here, item 3. That should be 8877, and I apologize for that. That was my typo, not 8845. I believe that's the correct address. Am I correct, Mr. DeKayser or Mr. Lippens?
Yes, this is Mr. DeKayser. You're correct, Mr. Dignan. That application was sent under 8845, was later corrected to 8877.
Right, at the Planning Commission. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, that's the only correction I have. Does anybody else have anything? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's a motion by Dignan, supported by Nelson. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Miss Manley, will you please call the roll?
Yep. Otto.
Yes.
Manley. Yes. Moko.
Yes.
Chick.
yes,
Zelenock.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Dignan.
Yes.
7-0.
Okay. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the meeting, but in accordance with the state requirements, when we do call you for your roll the first the first time you acknowledge, you need to state where you are at. If you are in, you know, I would say this is Ken Dignan. I'm in Northfield Township, Michigan. So it's important to state both where you're at and the state that you're in. It's just one of the requirements to do these virtual meetings. And I apologize for not mentioning that before. Next is petitions and communications or call to the public. We are opening it up to the public for any citizen comments or concerns in regards to agenda items that are listed on the agenda for this evening. We will have a call to the public for general comments as well at the end of the meeting. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board at this time? If so, you please raise your hand at this time. Don't see any participants that are on the phone. And I don't see any hands raised at this point. Okay, not seeing any, we will move on. The next item is board member comments and manager clarification. We don't have any clarification for any calls to the public. Are there any board member comments at this point?
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Sure, Ms. Zelenock?
I just want to remind people that we are sending out tax bills. They will be sent Friday, November 27th. The first day that we can collect payment is Tuesday, December 1st. They may hit the mailbox a little earlier than December 1st, but it was either that or they would hit the mailbox after December 1st. So we chose to try to get them a little before time or on December 1st.
Excellent. Thank you, Treasurer Zelenock. Anyone else?
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, we'll move on. I don't have any correspondence. Does staff have any correspondence? Mr. Aynes?
No.
No? All right. All right, we'll move on to new business. So first item of new business is to approve the November 10th regular meeting minutes. Does anyone have any questions, directions? Is there a motion to approve? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 10th, 2020 meeting as presented.
Support.
So that's a motion by Dignan, supported by Otto. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Oh, yes, Ms. Chick, please.
To Ms. Zelenock, did you get your correction done that you had requested?
Yes, yes, Ms. Chick, it's been corrected. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? Hearing none. Ms. Manley, if you could please call the roll. And let me remind you, please state where you're at.
Just for the first time.
The first time around, yep.
Okay. Manley, yes. Northfield Township, Michigan. Chick.
Yes, Northfield Township, Michigan.
Muchow.
Yes, Melvindale, Michigan.
Nelson.
Yes, Northfield Township, Michigan.
Otto.
Yes, Northfield Township, Michigan.
Zelenock.
Yes, Northfield Township, Michigan.
Dignan.
Yes, and I'm in Northfield Township, Michigan.
Okay, 7-0.
Thank you. The next item is the consideration of rezoning request for Whitmore Lake Public Schools for 168 Jennings Road. That's page 10 in your packet. Included quite a bit of information, including the recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve the rezoning requests. We do have with us today our planner, Paul Lippens, and Mr. Tom DeKayser from the schools. And I guess I will defer to Mr. Lippens quickly to just give us a synopsis of Mr. Lippens, would you like to do them together as far as your explanation, since the explanation is pretty similar, and then questions can be taken up individually on each property?
I think that would be helpful, Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll give a general background. There are two parcels that are part of the Whitmore Lake Public School holding that were submitted for proposal to rezone the properties one from SR1 and one from SR2, to a commercial zoning. The purpose of the rezoning was to bring the property in compliance with a state standard that requires billboards to be in a commercially or a business, a property zone for business. With this rezoning request, the public school district submitted conditions to mitigate the rezoning. And in our review, we found the conditions to bring this into consistent with the finding of a fact required by Northfield Township's ordinance, as well as with the master plan for the area. We are recommending approval of both of the cases this evening. We do have the Superintendent, Tom DeKayser, available tonight for comment, who can provide some background on the public schools requests. But consistent with the local requirements, Planning Commission did hold a public hearing. We heard from the public, and Planning Commission has made a recommendation that is consistent with the administration's recommendation to approve both of these requests. In rezoning these properties, we are not approving any site modifications. In fact, the public school district was asked if they had any intent to redevelopment or modify these sites at the public hearing, and Tom is here tonight. I think you could ask that question to him, but essentially this is a request that will change the zoning on the site to bring the public school district into compliance with some state requirements, but really not modify the site at all. In terms of our local requirements, with the conditions submitted, we're able to make a positive finding that this request is consistent with our master plan, and we have finding of facts of our letters that are required by the zoning ordinance. So we are recommending approval of both rezonings this evening, and Planning Commission also is recommending approval of both of those rezonings.
Thank you, Mr. Lippens. Appreciate that. Just in full disclosure, so that the public does know, prior to my position here on the Township Board, I was a member of the Whitmore Lake Board of Education for 8 years. I did resign that position prior to taking this position as the supervisor for Northfield Township. I just wanted folks to know that I am no longer affiliated with the school district in any way, except a parent of a child. So with that, I guess what we'll do is we'll open it up for any questions that people may have on the 168 Jennings Road property. Are there any board members that have any questions? I know there was a lot of information in your packet about that, and I know Mr. Lippens provided additional information, but yes, Ms. Chick.
So I was asking a ton of questions beforehand, even at the Planning Commission meeting. And I will say the Planning Commission recommended approval to send the rezoning to the board for their approval or denial. There was some uneasiness with this issue because we've never seen this before. In 11 years on the Planning Commission, never saw this kind of rezoning done before in the manner that it's being done. And Mr. Lippens did say that it was rare or not typical. So there's a level of uneasiness about whether or not this was the right thing to do. And part of the issue was the school had known about this, and the Planning Commission, or not the Planning Commission, the planner had known about this issue like back in 2018. And we got it at the last minute at the Planning Commission because there was a deadline to meet. So although we approved it, there was some uneasiness. And since then, some questions have come up. And I personally would like to hear from the other board members to see if they have any questions. I had asked all the questions I have. It didn't make me feel much better, but I'd like to hear from the other board members as well if they have any questions or comments, and then I'll come back.
Thank you, Ms. Chick. Is there anyone else on the board that has any questions? Ms. Zelenock, and then we'll go to Ms. Otto.
So has this been reviewed by our attorney? And what other options would be available?
I can speak to that. The attorney has not reviewed, the attorney has not rendered an opinion on this because the attorney has not reviewed this. The attorney typically does not review anything having to do with zoning. While they can review it, they have not. Alternatives to this are pretty clear from the state. There aren't any. The property must be commercial in nature in order to be compliant with the ordinance with the state law. And that's basically where I am. I don't know if Mr. Lippens has anything to add. I know there was some correspondence between Mr. Lippens and staff on that issue.
I'm not sure the question, if there are alternatives to this, I'm not sure what that means. So I would say any property owner has the right to apply for a rezoning. And the public school district has applied for a rezoning. So when those applications are filed, the township is obligated to process those applications.
All right. I do know one thing, Ms. Zelenock, that did come up at the Planning Commission meeting. I did watch that meeting, was a question of whether or not this was spot zoning, and that was addressed by Mr. Lippens. And it was pointed out that both properties abut existing commercial property. So the 168 Jennings Road has commercial property directly to the north bordering that property, and the 8877 Main Street has commercial property directly abutting it to the south. So it was not spot zoning in that way. It's contract zoning. But that was one of the concerns that I know was raised there. I don't know if that offers any insight or any help, but I wanted to provide that information to you.
So we have obviously several billboards in our township along US 23.
Yes.
So is there any exceptions where a piece of property is zoned commercial and for the billboard, and the zoning somewhere else is different? So I know I was talking a little bit with Miss Otto, and we thought that there was some uniqueness to the billboard by Nowaski's, meaning how that was handled.
All right. Mr. Lippens, do you have anything on that? I know you may have been involved in the Nowatzki situation. I was not.
Well, so I would say from a broader perspective, if the question is there an alternative way for the township to look at the US 23 corridor? I think there certainly is an opportunity for the township to look at how it handles properties adjacent to US 23. And I would say that would involve a look at the master plan, the setting of some policy for how the township wants to handle properties adjacent to US 23, and then some consideration over whether or not we need to look at zoning amendments to one or multiple districts in relationship to their proximity to US 23. So from a broader perspective as to whether there are alternatives for planning and zoning properties with respect to their relationship to the US 23 corridor, there's many options and many things that the township could consider for setting and addressing those policies.
I guess my question was specifically to accommodate billboards.
Well, I would say my answer would be the same. To accommodate billboards, yes, we could look at a master plan amendment and we could look at the zoning around US 23. Specifically to this case, though, I want to draw the board's attention to the fact that this is a specific rezoning case that deals with a specific landowner who has applied for a rezoning, and the township could certainly choose to deny this if you don't agree with either the recommendation of Planning Commission or the recommendation that administration has made. And the township could pursue a master plan amendment and take a deeper look at the policy for zoning around the US 23 corridor. I do not believe that that is specifically a course of action I would recommend with relation to this case. I believe that the recommendation that is before the board this evening is a solid recommendation. It's a recommendation that will serve the public good and resolve a case that is before the board.
Thank you, Mr. Lippens. Ms. Zelenock, did you have anything additional?
The other thing is just a comment was, as Ms. Chick referred to, we did receive a lot of information today that is not in the board packet.
I believe
So
that was information that was requested today by a board member.
Correct. And I actually requested some information yesterday as well, looking at it. So
Yep.
That information obviously is not available to the public. So,
Correct.
just a comment.
Okay. Ms. Otto?
Yes, so a couple of things, and I wanted to understand, what is it zoned today? Because I didn't see where I seen it anywhere where it stated that it was zoned. What today it's currently zoned at?
I know one of them is SR1,
Okay,
SR2.
The other is SR2.
The other is
okay.
Yeah.
All right,
SR1 is the Main Street property. SR2, I believe, is the Jennings Road property.
okay. So I do know the answer to this, but Paul, I think it's very critical that people understand why we don't spot zone. So the question will be, why don't we spot zone?
Well, I don't like the term spot zoning, but the idea is that if you zone one particular property for only one use, that really is an unfair use of or an inappropriate use of planning and zoning authority.
Okay.
In the state of Michigan, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, and I have read it several times over the last month and in preparation of this case, and as Trustee Chick pointed out, Planning Commission did discuss this, and my comment was that this is a tool that is authorized in the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act to differentiate from any claim of spot zoning. It permits a landowner to submit conditions with a rezoning request that can be considered by the local legislative body. But it very specifically also states that the body cannot modify or change any of those conditions submitted. So it's really, we have the ability to accept those conditions or to modify it. In this case, the Whitmore Lake School District submitted conditions to make their rezoning request more consistent with the master plan. And really what it does is it mitigates the zoning change to permit only a few of the uses in the LC district. As we know, even residential districts permit some uses of sites like schools that are not solely residential uses. So we really do feel like the conditions that were submitted address the master plan and make this rezoning request consistent with township policy. And because it's a conditional rezoning request, I think that the board can vote with a level of confidence that you're voting within the specific authority that is granted to this board to zone and to process rezoning requests in the township according to state law. The one thing that I would say that didn't come up at Planning Commission that has come up in my review since then is that the legislative body does have the authority to put a time limit on it. So while you can't add additional conditions, you could, in your motion, create a time limit under which this rezoning could expire. I'm not recommending that you do that, but for discussion purposes, if you would like to address your concerns by putting a time limit on this decision, that is an authority that you have and could make as part of your motion tonight.
So what would be the advantage of putting a time limit on?
I think if you were concerned about the decision and wanted to have the opportunity to revisit it with the school board, you could put a time limit on that would essentially, as my understanding from the way that the statute is written, if the conditions aren't met within the time limit, it would revert to the prior zoning. So in this case, the conditions are that they would not allow any of these other uses on the site. If the township felt that that those conditions weren't being granted, or the school board was moving in the direction of allowing those uses, a time limit would allow you to basically revisit the decision.
Okay. My last question. What would happen if the school decide to sell any of these properties? So if they chose to sell any of these properties, then it would, whoever purchased them, wouldn't they have to go in front of and try to get it rezoned again? I'm going to make this up because I'm just going to make it up. Say like somebody wanted to buy the middle school and make it a full retail mall out of it, for the sake of just pulling a rabbit out of my hat. They would have to go in front of the planning commission and get it rezoned again, correct?
So if this site was sold to another party, the conditional rezoning would run with the land, and the conditions would also run with the land. So
right.
only uses that would remain in the LC district would be uses that could be considered. I think that the important thing to consider, though, which I think is related to your question, Trustee Otto, is if a new use or change of use were proposed by anyone on this site, what requirements would come into play?
Okay.
And in that case, they would be required to, for any permitted use, go through the site plan process.
Again.
Which would go before Planning Commission. And if it were a special conditions use or a conditional land use, it would also be required to go through a conditional use procedure, which would put it in front of the board for approval. Okay. I think that when I said, according to my understanding and the superintendent could confirm that the public school district doesn't have plans to change the site, I think that you don't necessarily have to take the superintendent's word on it, because you can feel confident that any changes proposed to that site would still be required to seek approval through the township, either through a site plan process or a conditional use process.
Okay.
And specifically, I would say, as it relates to a non-conforming use or non-conforming structure, the site plan approval process would also deal with any non-conformities on the site at that time as well. Whereas in rezoning, we don't deal with that. In rezoning, the existing site is not really under consideration tonight. It's only what the site is zoned, and if you approve it, what the uses or the zoning would be under the new zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Lippens. Ms. Manley.
So my question reverts to the information we got in the pack and then the information we got today. So
Yep.
What we got today, there was red and green. Red is taken out, green is put in or left in. So to revert kind of to Jackie's question, so if somebody buys this parcel, this runs with the land. So therefore they can't do the red, but they can do the green?
Correct. But that is all, any of the green uses would be subject to the township's approval process for those new uses. So a change of use on the site is not something that's granted as part of your rezoning. Any change of use on the site is required to go through the township's approval process for new uses.
Okay, I wish the red and green would have been in the packet, because
Yeah.
that is a huge decision maker, at least for me. And
I don't think it existed until today.
well, right. And that's, I guess, kind of the issue. It seems like some important information we got today, but was missed in the packet.
So,
Makes me a little uncomfortable.
Trustee Manley, or Clerk Manley, what I would say is there, you know, the manager received a few questions from board members independently today, and I know we provided answers to those questions as part of an FAQ to prepare you. But with respect to the uses that are permitted in the district and not permitted, that is really covered in my letter. It's just spelled out more specifically in that with red and green for your you know, preference, for your understanding. But I think we could easily read any of those questions into the record if there's any question. And specifically, you know, with the uses that are in the district or not in the district, it's a list of maybe 10 or 12 uses. So we could also read that into the.
I mean,
it wasn't new information. It was existing information in the packet before that.
Right. I guess what sparked my attention was redlined out was that that it could be a church. Okay, so we can't turn the school into a church. But green is that we can turn it into a marijuana establishment. And I don't want to turn this into a marijuana conversation, but kind of, you know, again, sparks my attention. We can't make it a retail clothing store, but we can make it a retail marijuana store. How that was missed, if that was an error, if that was done on purpose, if I don't know, but I'm not in favor of that.
Mr. Lippens, was that application put in before those establishments were? I don't think those establishments were part of our ordinances when that originally was applied for.
I think I would address this practically rather than try to trace back why that condition wasn't offered. You know, we don't have the, as a township, since we can't negotiate those conditions, I don't know the information that was presented to the board, but it's quite possible that even the ordinance wasn't codified, right? So even after the ordinance was considered, it might not have been on Municode. I don't believe that there's, you know, you can ask Tom if there was any specific reason why that wasn't put in, but I would practically provide the board with some guidance that the two uses that are permitted in the LC district, provisioning center and retail marijuana use, are permitted in the LC district for the entire township. And additionally, they're required to have permits. And the township has already granted at least conditional use approval for every retail and provisioning permit that you've created. So we will not be accepting applications from any new applicants in any of the commercial districts for a provisioning center or retail use. Regardless of your decision on this, the permits have been created and the conditional use approvals have been granted.
And that could be changed with a vote by the board.
Right.
It could be.
But it's not an allowed use, it's a conditioned use. So it's still.
Right, I understand that. I just don't like that it wasn't drawn out in here. Something that specific that is this town has been in an uproar about. I just feel that was missed, and very important miss. How it happened, why it happened, it doesn't matter. It was a miss, and
it wasn't a miss, Kathy. It wasn't there. It didn't exist.
Okay, well, it existed today, so we know about it today.
But you can't hold people accountable to an ordinance today.
I'm not holding somebody accountable.
That didn't exist a year ago.
Okay, so what ordinances are
when they applied? That's what you have to hold them to. You can't hold them to a new rule. So it shouldn't even. I mean, that's the problem.
I would say even another thing, Clerk Manley, to help resolve your concern on this too. I don't think that we got any proposals in the LC district for a retail use or provisioning center use. So just as easily as you could create new permits, you could also remove that use from the LC district. So there are definitely actions that you could take to resolve that. But from a practical perspective as your planner, I think that taking action on this, I think you could do so without any concern at this time over whether these properties would be used in that manner.
Thank you, Mr. Lippens. Mr. Muchow.
Sorry.
Well, I guess we're just spinning our wheels on this. I was going to say at the end of the day, when we can ban clothing shops, mini warehouses, churches, and cemeteries, but we're not putting marijuana on there. It's a huge concern for me. Regardless, I don't know if we can do an amendment.
Only the applicant can do that, and it didn't exist when the applicant applied. So we can't change that.
Well, can Whitmore Lake Public Schools add that before we vote on this, or is that not an option?
No, they'd have to wouldn't they have to reapply, Mr. Lippens, and go through a public hearing and all of that as well?
I think they would have to start over from the beginning, and we're not permitted to negotiate. So even if it would be in good faith, and even if the public school district didn't realize they were not including that and intended to, I think it would be inappropriate to ask them to make that modification.
Right, because it can't be negotiated. I forgot. Miss Chick.
So we're back to the beginning. You see how difficult this was for the Planning Commission, how difficult it is for this board, because there's still a lot of uncertainty, uneasiness, and some questions. And I would like to make a motion to table this decision for further discussion and have our attorney review it.
I'll support.
First of all, Ms. Chick, if you want to table it, that means we're going to take it up later in this meeting. Do you mean to postpone to time
Yeah, I'm
indefinite?
sorry. Yes, postpone it to the
I'll
next.
support.
meeting.
I'll support.
Okay, I
I'd
will
like to-
tell you. Okay, there's a motion by Chick, supported by Zelenock. Discussion on the motion. Okay, I will say this. The school district tried endlessly to work with the township on this issue. I remember I was a part of some of the discussions that the school district had, not with the township. This township has had a very abrasive relationship with the school district over the last 4 years. This is $50,000 to the budget. This is a teacher. This is funding for a teacher. That's what it is. And that's not going to change unless the state requires them to take them down. Could that happen? It could happen. If it happens, it's on the shoulders of those that didn't approve it. And, the fact that this was applied for well over a year ago and that it's just now making it here, even if we take out the fact that it was over a year ago, in March, the school district came back to us and it was pushed off to go back to this time. We could point fingers all day long. The fact of the matter is just like everything else in this township over the past 4 years, it gets drug out endlessly. I can tell you that as a previous applicant, where it took 1.5 years to get a C of O. This township board has to get out of its own way. It has to take and put things in priority. It has to be a partner in the community, not a hindrance in the community. That's all I have to say. Anyone else? Miss Otto.
So I would like to make a friendly motion that for the next board meeting that we have, that our attorney provides us feedback on this. This way we're not dragging it out, and that it's on the agenda for the next board meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Otto. I would like to ask Mr. Aynes to weigh in on the discussion that he had with our attorney in regards to the costs that this is going to be to the township, because I know that it was shared with Mr. Aynes that it's going to be a substantial cost to have the attorney review this. Is it Mr. Aynes?
Yes. The board in the past has said that when you want an opinion from the attorney, it's done by a majority vote of the board. So that's the first point. Second, I did talk to Mr. Fink about it. He confirmed what was said by Mr. Lippens, that normally he doesn't get involved in reviewing zoning issues. But if he did, that this one he felt like was a very complicated one that would take quite a bit of time to research because it involves a lot of different issues. And I don't know if he feels like he could get it back in 2 weeks or not. But I know when he was asked the other day about it, he said it's way too short a time for getting it for this meeting.
So I don't know if that's hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, but that is something to think about as well.
I still would like to have a friendly motion to ask our attorney to have it within 2 weeks.
When do you want it back in 2 weeks? So we're willing to pay
Yes.
the attorney whatever it takes to get it back in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Aynes, do you understand what that friendly amendment stated then?
Yes, I would point out that his hourly rate is $250 an hour. That was
Yes,
what the
Steve,
board,
we're aware of it.
Where-
Thousands of dollars.
I know you all are. I just wanted to make sure the public was.
Mhm.
Okay, well, there is a motion by Chick, supported by Zelenock. Ms. Otto made did you make a motion to amend?
I made a motion to amend
Okay, is there support for that motion to amend?
I'll
feedback
support.
back.
Okay. I'm sorry, is there
I supported. Janet supported.
Okay.
I think even Nelson might have supported as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
I did.
Nelson. Okay.
Mr.
Nelson supported the amendment.
So we have an amendment from Otto, supported by Nelson, to instruct the attorney that we want an opinion back within 2 weeks on this issue.
Do we need to vote on the original amendment?
Can't vote on that
That's
until you
after.
vote on the amendment.
You vote on the amendment
Is
first.
there any discussion on the amendment?
I concur. I think it's complicated, as Ms. Chick has told us. They have never seen anything in 11 years. I think it's important to have a legal opinion on it, and that's why we have an attorney, because once we say yes, you can't say no. Once we say no, we can't say yes. And before I make an opinion or a decision, I want to know more information. So I fully support having our attorney look at it.
Okay. Ms. Chick?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Zelenock. If we agree that it's complicated, and the attorney has said he thinks it's complicated, so that should tell you right there that it does need a review. And I don't think anybody on this board is not sympathetic to the issues of what the revenue that comes into the school board from that sign. But we have to look out for the taxpayers and the township first. And
Well,
that's our first obligation as board members. And my third comment is, this may have come to the township, but it did not come to the planning commission before 2 weeks ago. And it didn't come to any of us board members until tonight. So none of us should be held accountable, or the planning commission.
well, we are accountable because we're responsible. We're responsible for what happened because it was in our hands. So as elected officials, we are ultimately responsible. And as of, that's just a reality of it. You say to look out for the taxpayers of the township. I agree, including all those taxpayers that have children in our school. That's a big deal there as well.
Sorry.
And that should be considered. That's all I have on the amendment. Is there any other questions on the amendment itself? Hearing none, Ms. Manley, will you call the roll? This is a vote for, does anyone need it restated? We are
Just to
simply
send it to the attorney.
We are simply voting on an amendment to instruct the attorney to render an opinion back to us within 2 weeks on this rezoning. Yes, Mr. Muchow.
We have Tom DeKayser on the call for this reason. We haven't heard from him yet. I mean, I would kind of like to hear from him if he's on the call. That's just me, if anyone else wants to.
I think we could do that. Mr. DeKayser, are you there?
I'm present, just waiting to be called upon if there was any specific questions.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add to this, or
just it's surprising. I mean, the whole marijuana issue is it's interesting to me because this was originally put forth as a consideration 2 years ago under general commercial. I worked with Mr. Lippens on some of the nuances of general commercial versus local commercial, and the idea that it would probably have greater support if I put it through under local commercial, and came up with a list of conditions which would really endorse the fact that the district has no intent to use this property for anything other than school property. So we put together, I think, a rather exhaustive list of conditions. Marijuana shops never came up, and it wasn't an ordinance at the time, like you said, Mr. Dignan. So it was my intent in preparing this with the conditions present to just really in good faith show this board that I knew it would ultimately come up to for a vote, to say, hey, we don't want to do anything with this property other than use it for school functions. So here we are, end of November, and you're essentially challenging the intent of the district and looking out for yet another condition. We'd have no intent but to use this for, in fact, if we don't get it rezoned, I would say the intent might change. But if we can maintain our revenue streams, then yeah, I stand by what I said. The intent is to keep it in as school property for use in the community for into perpetuity until you decide that someone wants to rezone it for something else. But our intent is to keep it that way. And it's just surprising that marijuana is coming up now. I would also say, regard to timing, I actually kept this off of your agenda in the summertime intentionally, because I knew you were dealing with a lot of marijuana zoning issues and didn't want to put this in front of you for that reason. I regret that decision at this time.
You're muted, Ken.
I apologize, Mr. Nelson, and then Miss Manley.
I just have a question. What is the current as I'm not entirely sure of what the size of these properties are. Isn't it currently a 500-foot buffer, if I'm correct, around the school in terms of marijuana shops and marijuana establishments?
Yeah, it is, and the properties are within 500 feet of each other.
Would a potential solution to this would be to extend that buffer, and then that would automatically kind of push this through? I mean, this could be something we could discuss later. This is definitely something we should talk about and something that would affect the school. I just feel like when it comes to marijuana, it's a very touchy subject for everyone. And I think we should take any considerations to bear regarding it. I don't think a simple pros and cons right here is going to solve it.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Ms. Manley.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Dekayser. And in my opinion, my voice wasn't just about marijuana. It was about, why are we getting this last minute? Why are we getting last information? Until Mr. Dekayser spoke, I didn't know that we were working on this for 2 years. So this kind of just digs into bigger issues that we need to deal with in the township. And I apologize to Mr. Dekayser for all this. Nothing against you, nothing against the schools. It's just, and I don't know, just many bigger issues that we obviously need to work on. And I apologize you got wrapped up in it.
Ms. Manley?
Call the question.
Okay. There's a motion, or there's been a motion to call the question. Is there support?
I'll support.
Motion and support to call the question. There is no discussion on that motion. Ms. Manley, will you call the roll to call the question?
And this is
Just to call the question.
call the question. Manley, yes. Otto,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Moko,
Yes.
7-0.
Motion is 7-0. There is no further discussion. We are now calling the question of the amendment to instruct the attorney to give us an opinion within 14 days on this rezoning.
Okay.
Manley, can you call the roll?
Chick,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Dignan,
No.
Manley, yes, Muchow.
No.
So 5-2.
Okay. So now we have before us the motion to postpone indefinitely or postpone until a time uncertain the rezoning request for 168 Jennings. I will not be supporting this motion. If there's any other questions? No other questions? Miss Manley, will you call the roll?
I have a question.
Okay. Miss Zelenock?
Slow down a little bit,
Well,
Mr. Supervisor, please. It's a little more difficult on Zoom.
I know, I apologize.
My understanding, it wasn't a postponement indefinitely.
The
I
next,
don't know.
That,
Where
that
did,
that's the parliamentarian wording
Okay.
for it.
All
Yeah,
right, so-
postponing indefinitely just means till a time uncertain, till the next time you
Okay.
can schedule it. Yeah, I apologize.
I just wanted, I've
Yeah.
never heard, I don't recall ever making a motion in my last 4 years to postpone indefinitely, so.
Yeah, they
Thank you
usually
for the-
do tabling, which tabling is inappropriate as well, but it's
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. I just
No
want,
Yeah.
uh,
It just means till we can get it on the agenda the next time, or it's ready to come before the board. I apologize for that.
thank
Okay.
you.
Any other? Miss Manley, will you call the roll?
Otto,
Yes.
Manley, yes, Muchow,
No.
Dignan,
No.
Zelenock,
Yes,
Chick,
yes.
Nelson.
No.
So 4-3.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a consideration of rezoning request for Whitmore Lake Public Schools for 8877 Main Street.
Okay, I'll make a motion to postpone indefinitely the request for rezoning the Whitmore Lake Public Schools for 8877 pending review of our attorney in 14 days.
Motion by Chick,
I'll support.
supported by Manley. Any discussion?
I have discussion, Mr. Supervisor. Again, I would like to say, I want the attorney to review it. That's why I'm supporting this motion. And I did not know, and I have been a board member for 4 years, so there needs to be better communication about how come this took so long to get to the Planning Commission, because the information in the packet says October 21st, 2020 is when the public hearing happened at the Planning Commission.
Right.
And as Miss Manley said, there's a deeper issue that needs to be resolved. All I'm asking for, because of the complexity, is that our attorney looks at it and that we have never dealt with this, that anybody can recall in our township. And I want to make sure that we process it correctly. And furthermore, I'd like to understand why it took so long to get to the Planning Commission. And obviously it didn't take that long to get to the board. So that's very discouraging.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Zelenock.
you.
Can I address that question, Supervisor?
We have a motion on the floor right now, Mr. Lippens.
Understood.
So at this point in time, is there any other discussion on the motion? Not hearing any. Miss Manley, will you please call the roll?
Dignan,
No.
Otto,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes,
Chick,
Yes.
Manley, yes, Nelson,
No.
Muchow,
No.
4-3.
4-3. Okay. All right. Mr. Lippens?
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share with the board that, we get applications, not just in this case, but, any application gets filed with the township. There's often a procedure that goes back and forth between your administration and that applicant to process the case. In this case, in addition to us going back, the superintendent and I going back and discussing the case and what their objectives were in filing the case, he also has a board to report to. So he had to go then back and schedule feedback from his board and get permission from his board then to come back and file cases with us. So this process just takes time. It was this summer when we received a new application for a conditional rezoning. As the superintendent noted, we worked with them to schedule that case for processing in a way that fit their objectives as well. So, I would encourage the board to, understand and work with your staff to process this case. Certainly in the future, if you would like, more regular updates about cases that have been filed and the status, we could do that. But there was not a delay in processing this case. We were working on processing the case the whole time, and things take time. When we schedule this for appearance before Planning Commission, that's when we're processing the public part of this case. And we've done so, very, very quickly, which is why when we held the public hearing, we've then moved from the public hearing to the board, which is what we're required to do. So I guess I just want the board to know that this is, one among many cases that are filed, and your administration works on them. And we're going to continue to work on cases and process them, but also provide you with the information that at a time. So.
Certainly we know that our efficiencies are broken. We need to definitely address that as a board. That will be a subject of a future agenda item. There's no doubt. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is the reappointment of the Deputy Treasurer, Emily Hofsis. And Ms. Zelenock, would you like to entertain a motion?
Yes, I would. I make a motion to reappoint Emily Hofsis as Deputy Treasurer at her current rate of $20.55 per hour.
Okay. And is there support for that?
I'll support.
Okay. Motion by Zelenock, supported by Manley. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Manley, will you please call the roll?
Yep. Manley, yes. Muchow,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
7-0.
Excellent. The next item on the agenda is the reappointment of Deputy Clerk Christina Wilson. Ms. Manley, would you like to make a motion on that?
Yep. My motion is to reappoint Christina Wilson as Deputy Clerk at her current rate of pay.
Support.
Support.
All right. There's a motion by Manley, supported by Chick. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Ms. Zelenock.
Ms. Manley, can you tell me her current rate of pay, please?
I want to say it's $22.22, but I didn't want to put that in the motion because I don't want to get quoted on that. I don't want to give her a raise or a pay cut.
Okay.
You'd welcome a raise, but
Okay. Any other questions on the motion?
Thank you.
Hearing none, Ms. Manley, would you please call the roll?
yep. Dignan,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Manley, yes. Nelson,
Yes.
Muchow,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes.
7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 6. I included in your packet some information in regards to MTA Township official training materials. I know some of you may have some of the materials. I know I have some for my position, but obviously wanted to bring to the board a request to be able to obtain these materials for the elected officials that may need them or may not have them. If everybody needed their respective materials, the cost at the very maximum would be in the high 400s. It would not exceed 500. But I think it's important for this board as we move forward to make sure that we have things in our possession. I know some of you have been board members for a while and may have them, but wanted to work with the township manager to make sure these materials were acquired. Is there, so I guess I'll make a motion to approve an expenditure not to exceed $500 to purchase training materials for township officials based on their current need.
I'll
I'll
second.
support.
Okay, I believe that was supported by Nelson. So motion by Dignan, supported by Nelson. Discussion. Ms. Otto?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that there is we do have training budget under the supervisor, treasurer, clerk, trustees, that this money can come out of. So while I was a little bit surprised to see it on the agenda, normally it would just come out of the training budget.
Excellent. I figured I'd be a little bit safer than sorry.
That's all right.
in bringing it to the board. Any other questions on the motion?
I'd just like to make a comment. The treasurer, we already have our MTA books.
Excellent.
So we're good.
All right. Yeah, and I'll check with each of you on that and make sure that we get you the right materials. Yes, Ms. Manley.
Should we amend the motion to take it out of the designated training budgets?
I think that's just where it would come from. It's just
Okay.
approval of an expense, essentially.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
I think it actually, Madam, Mr. Supervisor, I think it would be good for our controller to know that.
Sure.
We may look at these motions and then she will be asking where the money comes from. So I think the more specific we can make it, the better it will be for her.
Okay. Expenditure not to exceed $500 out of the training budget.
Out of, I think, Ms. Manley, out of each department's training budget.
Oh, okay.
The designated,
Each department. Okay. So
Yeah,
we'll have
because
to
even
break
the
that up.
trustees have a
Training budget. Yep.
We'll break that up and make sure that we get the detailed report over to her so that she has that.
That would be helpful for her.
Excellent. Thank you.
So is that a friendly amendment that the training will come out of each of the department's training budget?
Okay.
That's my amendment to the motion.
I'll support it.
All right. All right. We'll do that as an amendment then. So there's an amendment motion made by Zelenock, supported by Otto, to ensure that it's designated to each department's training budget line item. Any questions on the amendment? Ms. Manley, will you call a roll on the amendment?
Manley, yes. Chick,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Muchow,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes.
7-0.
Excellent. And is there any other questions, or can we call the roll on the expenditure? Okay, Ms. Manley, would you
Okay.
please call the roll?
Zelenock,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
Manley. Yes. Check. I have to think about it. Check.
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Muchow,
Yes.
7-0.
All right, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is board appointments and assignments, nominations, and such. One thing I will say is there's going to be some more of these coming up as well. There were some things I wasn't made aware of going forward. And I wanted to ask a question of the board, and that is, I did a lot of research on this across multiple townships and villages and cities and stuff. And these appointments tend to last, or in most places are 1-year appointments. And each year the board decides who is going to be on these respective boards in order to create a more diversified training of your board members and give them a greater depth of experience in various functions within the township government. I think that would be something that would be of tremendous benefit to us, especially as we start going down the road of seeing a lot of potential things coming before us in the future. Obviously, that would be a decision of this board to decide. At the same time, if even at 1-year appointments, I mean, that doesn't mean that things have to change. It just means that every January we kind of look at it and say, who are our reps to the various different boards, parks and recs, zoning, planning, LPC, etc. So with that being said, this is not necessarily something that has to be done today. It would be nice to be done today in the event that there's a planning commission or a zoning board meeting, or I do not know if Parks and Rec's going to meet or LPC before the end of the year, but you know, any thoughts? None. All right. Well,
I'll make a comment, Ken. I know that the ZBA is not going to meet for the rest of the year.
Yep.
And usually for the ZBA, they only have to meet 4 times a year. We've already met our requirement for the year of 2020. And it's my understanding that there's no new agenda items coming up for December. And normally we do not meet in December, but in the event that there is, we do. But there is not one, I don't think, that is opened in December. As the other ones, I would say that people should look into each one of these and determine which ones that they would feel comfortable being on.
Can I ask a favor of Ms. Chick? Ms. Chick, would you be willing to continue serving on the Planning Commission in the event there is a meeting between now and when we address this on December 8th or January?
Yeah, typically, you hold your seat until a new appointment's made. So even if there isn't one, yes, we do have a meeting, so I would still be there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's do that. I mean, if anyone has questions about the different boards, I'm happy to give some information. I'll send out some additional information, or actually I'll have Mr. Aynes send out some additional information on each of them. You know, and you know, one of the things that I'd like to ask about, and then I'll go to Ms. Otto, is item F, parliamentarian. It's something that this board hasn't had in the past. Some boards do, some boards don't. And what it is it's one of the board members, one of us that steps up, becomes trained on parliamentary procedure. Basically, you're provided a couple resources, books, and when a question comes up about the order of something, or if we're having a meeting and a member raises a call, you know, point of order, the board, as a group, respectfully steps back, asks the parliamentarian to look at it, give us a rendering, and then that's what the board proceeds with. The reason you do that is it keeps the order, it keeps things going forward. You don't get into a deliberation at the board level. The parliamentarian looks at the documents before them and makes a rendering and a decision. If there's somebody on the board that would be interested in doing that, I can provide you more information. I've been a member of the Association of Parliamentarians for, oh gosh, 15 years. And it's I don't want to call it a thankless job, because when it's needed, it's important. But and we may never need it. We've, you know, I've sat on boards for 10 years and never ever had that come up. But you know, it's something to think about. Are there any questions on the other items listed there? Yes, Ms. Chick, please.
I don't have a question. I wanted to comment on your comment about making them one-year appointments. I know I can only speak to the Planning Commission because I've been on it forever, but there is a huge learning curve when you sit on a board, and even 1 year on the board, it doesn't give you enough time to take it all in. In fact, I've been on it forever and I'm still learning things, but so I don't know that a 1 year, I think it's kind of disruptive to each of the boards as well, but my thought.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, guys, the reality is training comes with these appointments too. If you've not been on them and have been through the training before, it's very important. MTA offers a tremendous amount of training, as does MSU Extension. A lot of that's virtual now, available. It is invaluable when they do go back to in-person to be at one of those with people who are also like on a planning commission that you can bounce things off of and, you know, share ideas about cases. But all right. Well, then what I'll do is I'll prepare a communication with Mr. Aynes, have him send that out to you, and we'll look to put this on the December meeting for the process and appointments to those positions. Ms. Otto, please.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, are you also considering having the employee committee we did have an employee committee before. I would highly recommend that we do that again.
Okay.
And that basically is if there's a policy or something that comes up that needs to be considered, the employee committee reviews it and brings all the information to the board.
And that would be different than the personnel committee?
Well, it's the same thing, personnel committee.
Okay, all right. All right, I'll make sure to note I'll put the employee in brackets, okay. All right, and let's see here. Just 1 second. I don't have it up, okay. All right, so with that, let's move on to item 8, discussion of the emergency closure policy, pay for staff during employee shutdowns.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Ms. Zelenock?
I'd like to make a motion to allow employees to work from home as much as possible until December 8th, 2020, under the recommendation of the township manager due to COVID, and to reinstate the township's emergency closing policy to pay employees up to their scheduled hours during this time period based on the recommendation of the township manager.
I'll support.
Motion by Zelenock, supported by Otto. Is there any discussion on the motion? I think it's pretty much in compliance with state law. It's what we've done in the past. I think it's definitely, and we'll revisit it obviously at our next meeting as well. And
Yeah. If I can make a comment, obviously our next meeting is December 8th, which is a good timing. As you can see, based on the backup material, when we first entered the COVID era, we made a motion in March 17th to comply with like the state of emergency. However, we didn't know the state of emergency was going to be like 8 months.
Right.
And so then we the office came back to work in, I think, June 18th. So I guess my comment and lesson learned is, I think where we can take the guidance, I don't think we want to make our motions based on other entities' motions. So that was my point of not actually saying the state of emergency in it, just because I want to revisit it, what's best and for our employees as well as our residents and our township.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Zelenock.
You're welcome.
Is there no other? Oh, yes, Ms. Otto.
I'll make a comment and support what Lenore said because, for example, with the company that I work for, we do work from home. We have since April, and they're not going to look at reinstituting us back into the office until July, until after vaccines are distributed. So those are some of the things that, like Lenore said, we have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and not just do a blanket across the board.
Right. And there are times when staff members are going to have to come in and they need to coordinate
Right.
with Aynes when it's safe. I mean, if they have to be in there to do their job, then that needs to be coordinated appropriately so that proper precautions can be taken, for sure. All right. Any other questions? With none, I'll ask Miss Manley to call the roll.
Okay. Nelson,
Yes.
Muchow,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes.
Zelenock,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Manley, yes. 7-0.
Cool. Excellent. So one of the things I did in this agenda that's different than you've probably seen in the past is new business discussion only. If you think about workshop meetings, I think in the past, things of that sort, to start off with, these are things that are going to be coming to us or potentially coming to us, or items that the board members, I think, need to start thinking about. One of them is, it may look familiar to some of you, and that is item number 1, which is the consideration of a resolution to participate in redevelopment-ready communities. I have went through the training on this, which is about 8 to 10 hours of training. It's pretty extensive. This program, if you have not checked it out, the information that I included, I understand that with our packet when it comes out, and between then and today, you may not have. If you don't have a login there, we can get you one to log in and see some of at least the introductory training video. This would start getting the engine that is the Michigan Economic Development Council or Corporation, working on our behalf. They would go out and market sites like the Woodbridge site, sites that, that they would go out and sites like the, the vacant gas station site at 6 Mile potentially. They typically look at a little bit bigger sites, but they would go out, they would actually spend money. They would bring clients to the township. They would, but in doing that, you are committed to being an RRC, and being part of an RRC or redevelopment ready community means you're going to take and your board's going to get trained on it. Your planning commission is going to get trained on it. Your DDA is going to get trained on it. You've got to assign folks to certain tasks. You have to streamline your business, your building department. And they have experts and professionals. They're not coming in and telling you how to run your building department. They're coming in and providing you the best practices and the things that they have learned, that if you want someone to come in and invest in an asset such as maybe that large parcel over there on 8 Mile, this is what you have to do. And as long as you're willing to do it, they're willing to go out and basically be your advocate. They can spend, a great deal of money on doing that. I think this is something that we really need to consider. I'd like to bring it back to the board as a business item, but really, if you can review that, look at it, and get back to Mr. Aynes with your thoughts on it, that would be great. Mr. Aynes and I will be talking about it more in the future, along with Barb Griffith from our DDA and Larry Roman from our Planning Commission. But it starts here. It starts at the board level, and whether or not it's something that we want to do. I do know that there's a self-assessment that was included, and there was a memo from the previous supervisor about it. And I know it was looked at back then. I don't know why it was not advanced. But, if one of you has that information, I'd love for you to be able to get a hold of me and share it with me. Or, yes, Ms. Otto.
So I can share part of it with you with the board. I do recall this, and that it was provided, and we didn't have enough votes on the board to support it.
Oh, okay.
But what we did do, and I don't know, is there a cost to this? Something told me that was the main reason, that there was some type of cost, and they were worried that it was going to cost us too much to do some of these changes that we needed to make. But with that in mind, we did go ahead and make some changes in the past 4 years, so we could be prepared at any time if we ever wanted to revisit this, that some of the changes going forward, we did make them in the past 4 years, as far as our capital improvement plan, with our master plan, with our with the personnel committee and our employee handbook and everything. These were all changes that we made in preparation that we ever did reconsider. We would be real quickly able to make more changes even faster.
Yeah, that's excellent, because those are some things that absolutely would have to be addressed, and I think that's a great start. Mr. Nelson.
Just a potential question to the board. Would it be a possible thing to explore for Mr. Aynes or anyone who would be assigned to this, to potentially look into what requirements we would still have left to meet for this, and just get a general list so that we can look at it and see what we would need to do and the costs associated with that? I think that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I think that would be hard, because they have to come in and do an assessment. Now, what I can do is there is a guy who coordinates this, and I can invite him back to give a 15-minute presentation to the board. We'll start at 15, try to keep it relatively short, but could come back and present to us. It makes it a lot easier here on Zoom, obviously, and we could potentially ask him questions. And I think that if the board's okay with that, I'd be happy to set that up for a future meeting. That's not committing us to anything. It's just listening to him. And yes, Ms. Chick.
I just want to say, you know, we looked at the material before when it came before the board, and I reread through it again this time. And much, I don't want to say much of it, a lot of it we have already done as far as being evaluated. Some of it we haven't, and some of it looks a little harder to do, but it would be good to know exactly, you know, what we have to. I mean, do you have to have 100% of it done to be part of the program?
No, you do not. And they don't expect you to have it all done before you get in. They know that it's a process, and they know that there's steps that have to be taken. That self-assessment just kind of gives you an idea where you're at. And what's nice is some of the things that may look at it as a significant cost, they can often provide you the professionals that can help you do those changes so they're not as much of a cost. You know, I do know that also, you know, our planner has done stuff with our RCs in the past, and may be able to give us some guidance along that road as well. But I think it's worth looking at, and it's worth at least listening to the folks from there to talk about. I know that there are members of the community that are excited, and I think what I would decide to do or propose to the board is, if we hear from him and we like it, we set up an RRC committee of a couple board members, a DDA chair, a community member, and the planning commission chair. And the, you know, 5 of those individuals really take a deep dive into it and kind of take ownership of preparing the township for it, and preparing the, you know, so they can bring us to our board what we would need to do. They can bring to the planning commission what they would need to do, tell the DDA what they would need to do. I mean, that's a vision right now. Whether it shapes to that or something different once we hear more, it's hard to tell, but I thought it was really valuable to hear it. Go ahead, Ms. Chick.
And I would say to Mr. Nelson's point that there is going to be a cost, because much of this does not come free. And so it's going to it will cost the township to do this, which I think brings up another totally different subject, is we might want to review our fund balance policy.
Okay, that's fair. Mr. Lippens, did you want to say something on that?
I did. Since you mentioned it, I just wanted to let the board know, you know, I fully support and recommend you do proceed with becoming a member or RRC community. Many of the communities I work in are involved in this process, and I would concur with Trustee Chick and Trustee Otto's notes that a lot of what we've been working on for the past 4 years more than qualifies the township to be a member of this process. Our downtown plan, even the work we're doing now to update the township's development packet. I think this is a good process. One of the things I'd be looking forward to is, you know, potentially their assistance in marketing some of the township sites and continuing our work on downtown and near downtown. So I think this is a really positive step. I think it goes to government cooperation and working with other things going around the state. And, you know, I personally am very excited about the work we've done, the planning work we've done in the last 4 years. And I think this program offers the township the opportunity to forward and advance many of the positive things that this board has been working very hard on.
Thank you, Mr. Lippens. Yeah, I think you'll be surprised how much work we've already done that is there, for sure. I mean, the planning commission has worked real hard on it, and I think that's great. All right, yes, Ms. Zelenock.
Is there any estimate of how long to go through and complete becoming a redevelopment ready community? Is it
well,
process?
that
It
is
probably depends on where you are, but is there a general range? Is it a 6-month process, a year process, a 1.5-year process?
From what I have had discussions and what I've read and viewed is it can be a 1 to 3 year process depending on where you're at in your community. I would anticipate, with where we are and the hard work that's been done by the Planning Commission, that we are probably closer to that 1 year mark to getting there, or 1 year to 18 months, because you know, when we start looking at that, we're talking about, 25 people taking 10 hours of training. Each of us as board members, each of the planning commission members, each of the DDA members, it's all online and it's free, but still, I mean, you and I, everybody knows, 10 hours of training in front of a computer is not going to be done at one time typically. And it's going to take some time and commitment. And it is one of the most critical things is getting the training. Once people have the training, they're excited. I got to tell you, you finish that training up and you are fired up. You are ready to get, you want to get this done. And, that's a big deal. So realistically, 12 to 18 months, I would probably guess, not having ever gone through it though, but they say, some communities are ready to go pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have one other question.
Sure.
So is there any estimate on how much it cost to, the typical range of cost?
They don't give that because it's not a cost from them.
Right. So it's a cost of what you have to do to update any of your policies and procedures.
Right. And I think we've paid a great number of those costs already. I think
Okay.
we've already done a great deal of that with things that we've done. All of our major reports or books, such as our master plan, we're just updating the Parks and Rec plan, those kind of things. All those plans are a big part of it, and they go right down that road. So I think that's good. Ms. Chick, did you have a question?
Yeah, because I know it's going to come up. I know the DDA is a volunteer group, but the board members and the planning commission, are they going to be paid for the 10 hours that they're doing this training?
That's a good question. It's a question this board has to
I know
answer.
it'll come up, yeah.
Yep. And, or is it a part of your service? That's a question. That is something that we would have to decide. I mean,
Okay.
all right. I on that front, I wouldn't be afraid of throwing a stipend out if you finished,
There you go.
by, your spouse and you a nice dinner or something. No, I mean, something to that effect, but, all right.
I have one other question, Mr. Supervisor.
Absolutely, Ms. Zelenock.
So what's our next steps on this then?
I'm going to invite someone from the RRCs to jump on a Zoom with us at our let's see what the December 8th board agenda looks like. But I'm not inviting him to give an hour presentation. I'm inviting him to give a 15-minute and maybe a 15-minute Q&A, if we have questions. So, but it'll really depend on what that agenda looks like. If it looks too heavy for that agenda, it'll come forward in January.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Yeah, Mr. Muchow.
Moco. That's all right.
Why can't I just say Moco?
You got 4 years to get it right, Ken.
I do. Thank you for understanding. Yes.
Hey, I just wanted to say, I mean, this RRC is exciting. I really think it'd be great if you could get someone to bring a presentation in, just from the conversations. It's got universal support across the DDA, the Planning Commission, and it seems like the board has some interest in it too. So yeah, I'm all for more information on it. Sounds really good.
Awesome. All right. Moving on, the next item, I just wanted to announce that there are openings to the public. Please, there are a lot of openings in the township. We have 2 planning commission seats open. We have an opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have an opening for an alternate on the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have 5 openings with the Board of Review, 3 main openings and 2 alternates. If anyone's unfamiliar with the Board of Review is where you go if you're appealing your property taxes, and those individuals look at that and determine whether or not. Actually, I'm going to let Ms. Zelenock explain that if she doesn't mind. I didn't mean to put her on the spot, but she's.
Oh, as far as the Board of Review?
I'd like the
Oh, well, I mean, actually,
what it is.
I actually think you are the Board of
I
Review
know
secretary.
I am the secretary. I know you had.
So working with our assessing department that the Treasury does, because we're closely worked, is if you have any concerns about your assessment or basically you would take it to the board of review. If you didn't follow your non-property exemption in time, you would take that to the board of review. That's the 18 mills that, because you're a property owner, you don't pay for the school. And so if you don't file that in time, that has to come before the board of review. And so any changes in your property assessment, if you think you're assessed too high, then you would come and apply for the board of review.
Thank you.
And they
Ms.
do it 2 times a year. I believe one's March, and then one's
December.
December coming up, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's
And it-
March, July, and December.
There you go. Thank you.
March is the only time that you can bring any property disputes. Those cannot go to the July and December board. So to
There
clarify
you go.
that.
Thank you.
So as I said, 3 openings there and 2 alternate openings, so 5 total. And
It's
then
it's a tough job,
it is a tough-
because you aren't usually, not everybody likes you at the end because you are determining, obviously, their tax base.
And then one thing I noticed in my review of everything is the board never assigned terms to the Land Preservation Committee, and the LPC is the only committee or group that we don't have any terms assigned to as far as their terms of service. And this will come back to you guys. Obviously, this is just for discussion, but I wanted to ask the board to think about that and decide if we wanted to come and look at terms so that we didn't have everybody leaving at the same time, or that we had an alternating term on that. So
Mr. Supervisor, being the board rep,
please.
but we do have a meeting scheduled in December.
Okay.
So I will ask the members maybe just to really kind of assign their own terms and look at how to stagger it and then bring that back to the board.
That'd be great, because 3-year terms is what it looks like we're pretty consistent on other boards. So the question is just, who comes up for review in a year, who comes up for a review in 2 and 3. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So we'll do that. And I think there was another question is if you would like, in addition to just in general, what committees and boards have bylaws and what ones should have bylaws.
Yeah.
At one point in time, the LPC did work on bylaws, and then basically, I think the board at the time just said they weren't really necessary. So we stopped that. So
we're going to try to pull that together.
What was that?
We're going to try to pull that together and put it into a policy book for,
Okay.
or rather a codified code, because our bylaws should all be in the codified code with the committees that we have and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that would be a really good is to look at the boards and committees and commissions and see, who does have bylaws and, do we want all of them to have bylaws or not? And the LPC would be happy to participate in providing bylaws.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Zelenock.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The next item is, I think every single person has brought this up to me. Just about every single person has brought this up to me. And that is the audio in our boardroom obviously is not all that important right now, but it stinks. That's to be quite blunt. It stinks. It stinks for the people at home. It stinks sometimes for the people that are there. We have been working on an 8-channel audio microphone device for 2 decades. Yeah, it was back when it was in fire station number 2, I remember. It's time that those things saw an upgrade. We did upgrades for the cameras, but we didn't do the necessary upgrades for the audio. And obviously with Zoom being such an important role, the question is what's going to come and take place when we are meeting in person, because there's still going to be a huge desire on the part of the public to be participants in some way, shape, or form. And what I'd like to ask of the board is just, gauge your guys' willingness. You guys know I'm a tech guy. I would like to research from a couple different places, different solutions. Yeah, Mr. Nelson, and then Ms. Chick.
Well, I just wanted to interject, the Zoom capabilities has definitely made the board more accessible to the public. I think that's something moving forward. We should consider doing like full throttling that way through it, and keeping Zoom as a means of communication. We could look into the costs associated with doing that, but I definitely think that's worth looking into just for the sake of the public.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Chick.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mr. Nelson. I think we've seen more people participate in these board meetings as attendees than we've ever had at any meeting on a regular basis. So I think having the Zoom available to people if they choose to use it is a great idea, along with our in-person meetings if we ever get to do that. But I also wanted to comment that Jackie and I attended a Green Oak meeting once, and their sound system is amazing. You don't even talk into a microphone. You can just talk and everybody can hear you. And they don't have the old projection screen, you know, that you'd used to show slides on in the 1950s. They have one that rolls down from the ceiling, and it's only like $300. So, you know, there's things we can do to improve things. And it's terrible because I've had to listen to meetings on TV at home when I've been sick and couldn't go. And you have to crank your volume up on your TV as high as it'll go to hear anything if you can hear. And even if they can hear it in the conference room or the meeting room, you don't get to hear it on at home. So it's difficult. So yeah, I'm all for it. Go to Green Oak, see what they got.
Thanks, Ms. Chick. Ms. Otto.
So I wanted to let everyone know that Zoom does have what is called Zoom systems, a Zoom system where it does conferencing. And we have incorporated them into our offices in Flint. We use them for our training rooms for when we have to train over 50 to 100 people at a time. They're fantastic. It's almost like being in the room with the people. You can have a mass group of people and be in a Zoom meeting with them and participate just like we are. But it could be like hundreds of people in one room.
They're pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I do have the information that I could provide Steve Aynes on it and the capabilities of it. This is just one type of system. There's other systems out there too. So
excellent. Well, excellent. I will be happy to work with Mr. Aynes and dig through a few options there and come back to the board with some options to look at and think about. You know, an assessment of our audio system is critical. You know, we've got to get it right. You know, folks need to be able to tune in and listen to us and not run into those challenges if we can avoid them. But so we'll go down that code. The next item is Municode Meetings. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at this. This is something that we use Municode right now. For those of you that may not know, Municode is where all of our ordinances are stored. They may hear it referred to as our codified code. Codification is getting it up on there and recording it there. Municode offers another component, another thing called Municode Meetings. And what it does is, as we're going down line items like one by one by one, so each of us right now we would see our agenda and it would go down as we're going to it. The supporting documents come up. It allows for your staff to build an agenda and go through an approval process automated. This would significantly cut down on Jennifer's time, Mr. Aynes' time, you know, my time as well, I guess. I don't know how much time right now. I'm still learning, right? This is meeting 1.0. But it's something that's really worth looking at. If you haven't looked at it, I would take and go out to the site that I provided, look at it, watch the video on it, explore Brisbane, and take a look. Brisbane also uses Municode for their website, Municode Web. And there's just some integrations there where the minutes integrate, where the meeting agendas automatically go out, automatically get posted. You know, even your meeting videos can be dissected down automatically for you by the agenda item. It is it is pretty cool to look at. And obviously those are all different pieces, but you know, in general, it's something to look at and consider. It's not something that, you know what I'm saying, we have to, you know, look at, rush into, go into. It's something that I thought was worth bringing to the table for everyone to look at, and we can have a discussion about it, you know, down the road. So, yeah, Ms. Zelenock.
Are there any other companies that offer a similar package and features that we should explore?
There's two other companies that do it that are equivalent enterprise-wise, meaning they're the same kind of level. They both do not only municipal meetings, but they're I would say 80% of their business is school board meetings. But we can look at them. Everybody's pretty much on par price-wise, about the same, and I'll have those for you on at least one or two other ones.
Okay.
As we look forward, because I know that's an important consideration as well. But
Thank you.
yeah, and there's other smaller providers. You know, my looking at them was, okay, this is a vendor we're working with. Maybe they'd be open to negotiations more to, you know, you got more products, got to have a better price, right? So we'll see as we go forward there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, what I think, Mr. Supervisor, I think it would really be good, you know, looking at the information provided, is being able to get the agenda item in a timely basis, and then determining, be it with Mr. Aynes, yourself, or Jennifer, or Ms. Carlisle, is there sufficient information to bring this forward to the board meeting, as opposed to we don't have quite enough, and then it comes back to another board meeting. So I think that is an important process that I think was missing over the last 4 years, is making sure the board has sufficient information, so that the goal is to vote yes and only have it once on the board meeting, unless obviously it's a discussion item. That's always my goal.
It's neat because you can put rules in place that require
Yep.
data. You know, they'll
Yep.
require data before it can go through and be approved for the agenda. You can
And
require.
I think,
so.
yeah, I think that would be really beneficial to all of us, the board members, as well as the public.
The next item you'll see in there, I'm working on my process for creating the agenda every meeting, and this is draft 1.0 of my process. You know, one thing I wanted to make sure of is that if you, as a board member or a member of the public or a member of the, you know, anyone who wanted to request an item be brought forth, has the ability and the process necessary to do so. This speaks right into what Ms. Zelenock was talking about, is having enough information to go forward. This is important for Mr. Aynes and myself to assess an item, whether or not it's appropriate for the agenda, and when it could possibly be put on the agenda. This would be a form that would then be provided with the supporting documents as kind of a cover to the supporting documents, not a replacement for a summary from the township manager or myself. But, you know, if you have feedback on this, if you could mark it up and just send it to me and let me know. You know, it's a form that I'm really trying to improve it. And if you've got input that can improve it better, or if, you know, specifically, Ms. Zelenock, I know on the financial side, I tried to capture that to some extent.
Right.
I know you have some comparison financials, and I'd really like to incorporate that. So
okay, yep. And just a little bit more about on the financial side, I think it would be useful to put in obviously the financial impact, and I think you said somewhere, is there a budget? Is that correct? And then, you know, is it in the budget? How much does it cost? And then which line item? I think, just as we discussed a little bit today, and I'll send you those comments, you know, like take it out of the training budget line item of each department. So I think it would be by line items. So again, that always helps us as board members to know that it's in the budget where, but it does help the controller as well as Ms. Carlisle, so they know what account to use to take the data. So I do have some comments, and it's a good first start for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to do here, guys, is I'm trying to avoid the situation that we've seen in the past where you're like, I've been asking for this item to be on the board, agenda for months. When I get this, it goes right into a spreadsheet that I'm keeping track of. It's going to be available to the township manager, just so I know where these are at. I know what's going on with it. If you are like, where is this item? You can call me and say, hey, that thing we talked about, when am I going to see it? I really want this to be transparent. I really want this to be out there. Yes, Miss Otto.
Could you put this in a PDF form, a fillable PDF form?
It will be, yeah. As I finalize, it'll be a fillable PDF that can then be downloaded. I mean, I'm assuming we'll make it available publicly too. So,
Okay.
yeah. But
And if you don't have the programming for it, I do.
okay. I do.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Does anyone else have any comments on that, or are we ready to go to announcements? All right, announcements. So the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees is on December 8th. The next Planning Commission meeting is on December 2nd. Reminder of Twinkle the Town is going on. So if you haven't decorated yet, please decorate. The flyer's in there, and let those folks know that you're decorated. They're going to put I think a driving map around a driving map. No specifics, just drive down this street and you'll see lots of lights. And then the Kiwanis Christmas Tree Sales are going on at the Old Township Hall, right?
Right at 75 Barker. You'll see the trees in the parking lot.
Awesome. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is petitions and communications from the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board at this time? If so, please raise your hand. Oh, wait, I see somebody. Okay. Ms. Pritchett, go right ahead. You are unmuted.
Well, Nate, don't feel bad because it's Prizgint and he hasn't gotten that right either. It's Marissa Prizgint.
Hi.
32. That's okay. 32 Strom Drive. I wanted to congratulate the new board. It's nice to see some new faces and welcome back to the veterans. I love the agenda item request form, Supervisor Dignan. It looks great. The only thing I was actually coming with an agenda recommendation and didn't see that. Something that got dropped a while back was a communication plan that the board was working on, and I would love to see that get picked back up. I know we've had some more pressing issues, but I think that now would be a great time to do that, being that there is, pending website changes. I think it's a good time to really take the opportunity to streamline the branding as well. A while back, I sent an email to the board with an example of a branding style guide, and it's something that we don't have. So I look at the website and it looks one way, and I get a newsletter and it looks a different way, and then I get a neon yellow postcard and it looks a different way. And it might not seem like a big priority item, but when you use your branding, your fonts, and your logos and use them every time, you create a brand for yourself that allows you to be easily identified and really resonate with people, which helps get your message across. So I would just like to see that be taken into consideration. I'd also be happy to share the simple branding style guide I created for the Land Preservation Committee as an example, if you'd like to see that, and just to get the communication plan picked back up. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Prizgint. All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak now? Please raise your hand. Okay, I do not see anyone else with their hand raised at this time. Next, I'll go to board member comments. If I can start, I just wanted to share a couple things with the board that have kind of come to light in the last day or two, and you'll see more information on this obviously coming forward, but there's a couple things. So Parks and Rec is moving forward with their sign for the community garden. The sign is designed similar to to be a temporary sign. It's a sign designed to be for a year or two. It looks very similar in materials to the North Village sign, and their cost of the sign is about $100, and it's covered with their existing budget. They sent that over. And another thing, I had a pre-construction conference today. We talked about moving forward with the sewer retention basin that's going on. The parking lot at the Senior Center, Community Center, you may notice is almost near completion. We're waiting on parking blocks and the handicap sign. Once that's in place, it will be opened for use. Starting to work on resolving the discrepancies for the DDA district. That's kind of going on right now. And another thing that's coming, it's going to be really important for taking care of folks in our community, is the Urban County Executive Committee of Washtenaw County has put out a member survey for non-housing community needs, for needs for those most in need. I'll be completing the survey as the delegate to there, but there's going to be a survey for the community coming, a similar survey about non-housing community needs. And when that's available, I will send that over. If there's community needs you guys are aware of, if you could send them in to Steve or myself, and make sure to include those in as the delegate for the Urban County Executive Committee. Just want to remind everybody to be careful with emails. I know we're doing a good job here moving forward with making sure that we don't hit reply to all on accident, and that communication is between you and the township manager, so that we stay on the right side of things. And then the last thing is Infuse IV hydration. They're a member of the Brighton Chamber, and they are offering a rapid COVID antigen test on November 25th at the Chamber's offices in Brighton. It is open to the public. There is no appointment needed. The tests are running from 12 to 6, and like I said, the public is welcome. It's a 15-minute test, but the tests are at a cost of $60 per person, and they take credit cards only. So while that's not a free test, it is a rapid COVID antigen test, and they making it available to their members, but they also wanted us to let folks know that it is available to the public. That address is 218 East Grand River Boulevard in Brighton, the old chocolate factory, if you remember, the big building on a hill. So those are the things that I have. I just wanted to kind of go over those, and now we can go around the room. We start with Nate, Mr. Muchow.
You got it, Ken.
Excellent.
I don't have anything to really add at this point. I'm really excited to be part of the board and help move everything forward. And let's have a good 4 years. That's all I got right now. Thank you, everybody, and do the best we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Ms. Zelenock.
I'd just like to remind people too, when the tax bills go out, that there is the newsletter, and part of the newsletter is going to have a Parks and Rec survey. So you can also take that on SurveyMonkey, but we have included a hard copy for those that would prefer to do it that way. So look forward to seeing that in your tax bill other than just your tax bill. And I do look forward to having complete information at the board meetings, because again, my goal is always really to vote yes. Absolutely. For most things. It's very rare to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zelenock. Ms. Manley.
Pretty much just want to say welcome to the new board, Joshua, Nate, Ken. Looking forward to the next 4 years. It's going to be fun.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson.
I'm going to reiterate same thing as Nate said. Really happy to be here with you all. I want to make Northfield great. I know we've got a lot of work to do to make that happen, but looking forward to the next 4 years with you all.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Ms. Otto.
Yes, I wanted to say welcome to the board, both Ken, Nate, and Josh, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone. I also wanted to bring up that if you haven't received it in your mail, the Fireworks Committee did send out a postcard in regards to fundraising this year. So if you have not received it, please let anybody on the fireworks committee know, but they are in need of funds this year because they weren't able to do the fundraising that they needed to do last year. Also, another reminder, the Kiwanis is having their Christmas tree sales. All proceeds of the sales go to the Kiwanis 4th of July parade. And we are a 501c3 organization. I also wanted to bring up too that Tammy sent to the board that she did not want the sign removed that was next to the community center. That she was planning to have the school develop a new sign for that, and then she was going to bring it to the board. So I just wanted everybody to know about that because I think there was talk about having it removed.
Thank you, Ms. Otto. Ms. Chick.
Yeah, I'm going to comment going backwards to Ms. Otto's comment. I commented back to Ms. Averill that she needed to check with the building and zoning department because I think when we bought the property that sign became non-conforming. So there's an issue with whether or not they're even able to keep it to have it refurbished. So she said she would do that. She was going to check with the building and zoning department. And I wanted to comment to Ms. Prizgint's comments on the communication plan. Ms. Zelenock and I were working on that, and due to COVID, we got sidetracked and we have not gone back to it, but we definitely need to get back on track with that, especially with the new board and new issues coming up. We have to take care of that as well. And also, Ms. Prizgint also advocated for many times that we number the pages in our agenda, our packet, so that it's easy to find things and you can refer to a page as opposed to trying to leaf through all of the information to find something. Finally, I wanted to comment on, I don't know, maybe some of the board members were concerned about the cost of having the attorney look into the zoning issue, and Mr. Dignan had commented on another issue, better safe than sorry. I think you need to consider that in this issue as well, because it is so complicated that, yes, it might cost us money to pay for an attorney to look into it, but it could cost the township even more in the long run if we don't do it right. So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Chick. Yeah, I'll just have one more comment, and that is I too sent back to Tammy that the sign is a non-conforming. It is a non-conforming sign. The change in use from the original builder of the sign, you know, the intention of what that sign was built for is no longer the use on that property, and the sign does not meet our current sign ordinance. I do know that. So, you know, and I've got maintenance concerns and issues. You know, you paint it, then you got to maintain it, and you got to, you know, we have a real problem in our community with these signs. There's signs up for businesses that haven't been here in 2 decades. So, but that's an issue we've got to address. With that, I don't have anything else. Does anyone want to entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll support.
Motion by Nelson, supported by Chick. Miss Manley, would you like to call the roll?
Sure. Otto,
Yes.
Chick,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Manley, yes. Moco,
Yes.
Dignan,
Yes.
Zelenock.
No, it's too short.
I know it's 9 o'clock.
8:50.
This is just potty break time.
We're done at 8:58 p.m. guys.
Take
All
that
right,
back. Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Have a good one.
Thanksgiving,
Take care.
everyone. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks. Bye.